Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Dessert Time. I'm Trinity and today we are going to make a Cruella de Vil dress cake for the movie Cruella. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way you get notified every time I release a new video.
Don't worry, there's lots more bad things coming.
Sadly, this video was unable to make the Cruella release date in theaters. However, it is going to make the purchasing date. And here's why. It took me forever to get my hands on this, a Cruella de Vil doll. Now this isn't the Emma Stone doll, but it is the doll from 101 Dalmatians, the movie. I couldn't obtain a Emma Stone doll because it is very expensive, and well, I'm poor. But this one I got off of eBay quite cheaply, and if you want to have your own Cruella doll, you can get one there, or you can do it with a regular doll. I just wanted it to be as accurate as possible. Now onto the cake. Let's get fashionable. Before I get started, I would like to stress the fact that this is more of an intermediate cake. This is because we're going to do a lot of fondant detail, we're going to carve the cake, and we're even going to mix a few batters. So if you'd like to try, go ahead. But if you want to just watch, that's perfectly fine too. For our batter, we are going to use 2 different cake mixes. Now this is because we want it to have Dalmatian spots. So first going to start with our chocolate, and we're going to make it the same way we would make cake pops. And then we're going to roll them into different sized balls and put them into our white batter, which is our final batter. This way we get a variety of different spots and circles and everything, so that way it'll look like Dalmatian when you cut it in. So first things first, we're going to start with chocolate mix. For your cake mix, you want to preheat it to the temperature it says on the box. And then we are going to unpack this and start mixing. For our chocolate cake batter, our first step is to combine all of our wet ingredients into one bowl. Now this recipe will be linked down below, as well as a video tutorial. So first things first, we are going to crack our eggs and mix them into our bowl. I'm somehow able to keep all the shells out, but whenever I use these, the brown eggs, I can't. The white eggs, I can. I can't even. I don't understand. Then we're going to take our trusty hand mixer and we are going to mix these. Then we are going to add in our water, our oil, sour cream. Once we finish mixing up our wet, we are going to add in our dry. Now our dry is just our pudding mix and our cake mix. I like to whisk them up together in a separate bowl because the pudding is smaller than our cake mix, and just whisking it up makes me feel like it's more evenly distributed. So we're just going to pour this in carefully, and then you're going to turn on your hand mixer to maybe back up a little bit. Oh yeah, did you see my fabulous Cruella dress? I know, it's just fabulous. No! 5 seconds. What? Look at that, it's all clean. Ooh. Like nothing ever happened. I suggest wearing an apron for this. Maybe you're not as messy as I am, so you probably don't have to. Here is our finished batter. Now, yes, this batter is very thick, and that is perfectly normal. It's just going to be a very fluffy and thick. It kind of barely moves. But that's how it's supposed to turn out. Trust me, it tastes so moist and delicious. It's amazing. Totally worth it. Thumbs up. Our next step is to move this into a rectangular or square pan or any pan that you want. The pan doesn't really matter because we are going to tear up the cake in the end. Here's my pan. It is like a square-ish trapezoid pan. It's because it doesn't have a straight right angle. So we're going to take some spray. Now I'm going to use some cooking spray. I prefer cooking spray over Pam. Now Pam is great. I just always feel like my cake might get stuck in there or my brownie. And so I just feel safer using some heavy duty cooking spray. So just unpop that cap and we're going to spray. Now that we got that over with, we are going to put our batter in the pan. So can we talk about Cruella? I mean, that movie was amazing. Okay, phenomenal. I mean, first off, the actresses, Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, beautiful. Mwah. Wonderful casting. And they played their characters so exceptionally well. I mean, I loved it. And I loved how in depth they went, especially back into Cruella's life. I like how they do that for the villains because now it's not about they're evil, it's about there's good and bad in every person and good and bad decisions. And I really like that a lot more than, you know, her just being 100% evil trying to skin dogs. Anyways, we're going to bake this for however long it says on the box. Here is our finished baked chocolate cake. And so what we're going to do is tear it into little crumbs. I'm going to use some gloves because this step can get really messy, and I would advise an apron. That way we can add in our icing, buttercream, whatever you want to use. In the end, the texture should be somewhat like Play-Doh. And then we can roll them into our little balls. Now it is time for us to spray our princess dress pans. Now I will link these down below, but what's really cool is that it already cuts out the space for your doll to be. You have your dress. Now it is time for us to spray our princess dress pan. Take your cooking spray or your pan, baking, and spray them. Now it is time to have our spotty batter. First, pour a little bit of our white cake mix. Then we're going to add a few balls. You can place them. While we wait for our cake to bake, we can watch Cruella on Disney+, or if you own it, you can watch it there too. Our cakes are cool, and we have leveled them into 6 different layers. And we're going to use some red Oreo buttercream for our filling. So, first things first, we want to put a little bit around our plate. And we want to leave a hole in the middle. Our cake has cooled, and now it is time for us to do some carving with a knife. Now, kids, get some parental supervision while you do this, or have the adult help you. Now, I'm going to use a reference photo. You can use one too, of our dress. So all we're really going to do is make sure that all the layers are about the same, and then we're going to cut in a little bit to make the dress a little bit more of a mermaid dress. So what was your favorite part of the movie? Comment down below. My favorite part, I think it's the part with the dog dressed up as the rat. I know that has nothing to do with the storyline, but I think it's hilarious. That's a hybrid. So start your divot, and you want to go about halfway because her dress is very long. You want it to be more of a smooth transition. So that's why we're going to cut a little bit out. Our cake has chilled just a little bit, and as you can see, I went a little longer reshaping the top of our cake. I wanted it to come out and have a curve and then go straight down and then flare out. It looks more like a bell. And then we're just going to take some buttercream that we used earlier, and we're going to ice this entire cake. We don't want to ice in the hole or on top of it because that is where our doll is going to go. We just want to ice carefully around it at the edge. Now keep in mind that this is a crumb coat, so you don't have to worry about it looking perfect, especially because we're going to put fondant on top of this. Now what's really hard is that we carved this cake, and so if we're not careful, the icing will build up and it will no longer be carved. So you want to make sure that every little divot that you carve can be seen through the icing. Finally, it is time for us to decorate. Now we are going to be decorating with some red fondant. Now you can already buy the fondant pre-dyed, or you can dye it yourself. This is just a lot easier to buy it pre-dyed. So what you want to do with your doll is to wrap it in cling wrap all the way from her hips to her toes. Now this prevents it from getting cake or icing all over its legs and you having to clean that up. So it keeps it nice and clean. And then my little doll has an extra bralette just to keep this nice and PG. First, we want to start with the top. Now, many people don't usually start with the top, but our top has a lot of detail, as you can see. And this is why we should start with the top first, because we don't want to try and put on the top and ruin our dress. So we're going to take a little bit of fondant, and you want to roll it out. So first you need to warm it up, especially if it's store-bought. You need just to warm it in your hands. And then you just want to lay this flat, press it down, and then you can take your rolling pin. I'm going to use a little miniature rolling pin. So you just want to roll this quite thinly. You don't want to be too thin, because then again, we have to come in with a fondant tool or a toothpick and make these little details of the wrapping and the draping of the fabric. So I would suggest like 1/8 of an inch. I prefer to lay my doll out and I measure where the waist is, or where my doll turns. Now your doll might not turn, but it's right at the waist, or if you want to, you can go a little further to make sure it 100% covers, okay? And then you want to straight across that entire line and bottom of the fondant. In order to get the right position, you're just going to layer from the hips, and then you're going to impress just a little bit on her chest. That way you know where it is. And then we have to make it go all the way up to the neck. So you want to trace around her shoulders and around her body. The over the shoulder will be on your right side. So just cut it widely. It's okay if it's not perfect. Just kind of cut it. Now you might want to thicken the chest area, because that's where it tends to thin out the most, because you're trying to flatten it around her chest. That way it's not all big and bulky. So then we're just going to add this to her body, try and fit it around her. Now we're just going to fix up any imperfections, smooth it around her chest area, that way it's not a defining line. Now is the hard part, which is the detail. And then we're just gonna keep on doing this until it looks very wrapped. Now we're going to make the triangles that come out around her neck. They kind of remind me of feathers, and so we're just going to cut tiny triangles. Now you want to set her, that way she doesn't get hurt. And you just want to continue doing this all around her neck, even a little bit in the back. Now we're going to work on the fondant that will cover the entire dress cake. So pretty much it's going to be the rest of the fondant left over from the package. And so what you want to do is knead this. So what you want to do is roll it out in both ways, length and width. This way it can cover the entire cake. I'm doing this on a non-stick baking mat, so it prevents sticking and makes my life really easy and to clean up too. This one I got from IKEA, but there's great ones online or at Walmart or Joann, etc., etc. Now it is time for us to put our red fondant on top of our cake to completely cover it. Before we get started, I'd like to point out this weird fondant thing I have on top of my cake. This is because one of my cakes broke apart, making my dress cake shorter and not reaching my doll's hips. Normally this fits a doll perfectly, however, one of my layers broke, causing it to be shorter. So that is what this is for. So I have it dusted with flour. So we're just gonna roll our fondant on top of this. Okay. And then we're just gonna drape it over. Now that our Cruella cake is completely covered in red fondant and it's kind of smoothed out in places, what we're going to do is add some red panels. Now we're just going to give some extra dimension, flowiness, I guess. So I'm going to start in the back, kind of work my way forward. Okay, and I'm just going to smooth
Ta-da! Here is our finished Cruella cake. Ta-da! Here is our finished fashionable Cruella cake from the movie Cruella. Thank you for making this with me today. If you like this video, please give it a big old thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you next month. Bye!